If you've struggled with the confidence of becoming a business owner, if you've struggled with overcoming failures and rejection, and if you're trying to understand how to become consistently high achieving as a new entrepreneur, then this is the conversation for you. I talked to executive and life coach Maggie Sim, and she gives us some tips and strategies. Have a listen. Welcome to Reinventing Perspectives. Today we have a very exciting guest. We have Maggie Sim, and she's an executive and life coach at Holding Space Singapore Services. Maggie, we're so honored to have you on. Please tell us, who is Maggie and what is Maggie about?
Hello, Priscilla, and thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast. I'm Maggie, Maggiesim. I'm currently an executive and life coach. I started my coaching practice about 2 years ago. And before that, I was a consultant. Then I spent some time in banking. So my corporate expertise, I'm a fraud investigator. Whenever I tell people that, they're like, you're a what? Investigator? I investigate crimes. That's really what I used to do. I think that kind of work was me to be interested in people, interested in people's behaviors, their motivations, and why people do things they do, because that really is at the core of investigating any kind of offense or violation or what the person's intention. So I would say that even right early on in my career, being very interested in a human condition, how people think and how people behave and why they behave the way has been a very common theme in my life. And so much so that even when I'm working as a coach right now, it's really moving along the same theme, just like it's in a different context.
Maggie, tell us, how did you go from, investing crimes in corporate to switching to being an entrepreneur and coaching in that way? Like, what led to that journey?
You were hoping to hear a very exciting story. I'm going to just tell you. It's probably a story that you've heard a lot. I went on the route that most people go on. You go to school, you graduate, you find a job, find a good job, you get married, you buy your first home, and well, I skipped the part about having children, climb the corporate ladder, you build a nest egg. Yeah, you supposedly become a successful person if you move along that route, right? So I did all that, and I would say that I was doing pretty well in my career, and I'm earning a very decent income. But there's only this sense that I was languishing, feeling like there's something more for me than just this. And the big question that I had, which I think a lot of people feel the same way, is so what's that? So what's next, right? For me, I had this burning question in my head going round and round for a good 10 years. So it started probably when I was in my early 30s and it went all the way till I was in my early 40s. And I didn't have a good answer to that question. What's next for me? And what is that something that will make me feel like I'm thriving and flourishing? Even though I didn't get an answer to the question, I continued pursuing it. And interestingly, I got my answers in a very unexpected way. So I was having a conversation with a friend and colleague, and she then suggested, she said, hey, why don't you pick up some self-development courses, right? I'm doing neurolinguistics. Take a look at that and might help you answer some burning questions you have always had. And I think that led me to a self-development journey, and I started taking up neurolinguistic programming. And then someone else then said, hey, why don't you get a coach? You might get some support in answering those questions. And for me, at that point in time, I'm like, but I don't know anyone who uses a coach. Why don't I do a bit of a search on the internet? And then, interestingly, an acquaintance then gave me a link to a coaching school. She said to me, just go attend one or two courses and you're bound to meet a lot of coaches there. And just give it a try. And I think that's how I started on this coaching journey. I went to coaching school wanting to be a coach, and I really loved the entire training so much, and I loved the people that I met. I love the entire philosophy of coaching. And that's when I decided that this is probably what's next for me. And that's what I'm going to do.
I think that happens to a lot of people. You kind of stumble your way into the thing that lights you up and helps you to thrive and flourish. What have you found is the best part of the job for you, of being a coach?
I think the best part about being a coach, if I could use a metaphor, I would say that I'm like a bridge, right? I'm just connecting people to where they are now with where they want to go, connecting people with their dreams, their values, who they really want to be, who they are becoming. That's the best part of being a coach, which is being able to support people in the journey which I've been on, and I'm just the guide that's just walking next to them or just walking slightly ahead of them.
Our audience is an early entrepreneur, so we might have some people who are also kind of getting into coaching there. So I figured I'd just ask what you find that lights you up about being a coach. And in the same breath, because we do have people who are new maybe to coaching and consulting and that kind of thing, what do you think that has been the biggest challenge that surprised you about going into coaching or going into consulting?
The thing that was going on in my head was I want to be a coach. So I want to coach people. I got myself trained, etc. And then at the end of the training tunnel, suddenly I realized one thing, which is, hey, I'm not a coach. I'm actually a business owner. I'm actually an entrepreneur, right? That's a message that I share with a lot of people who want to be an entrepreneur or who are just starting out, that you may have an idea that there's something that you want to do, but actually at the end of it, you might say, I want to be a baker. So I want to sell cakes, right? But actually, the bigger thing is that the minute you decide what service or what product you're going to offer, you stop being that thing and you start becoming a business owner. So I think that was like the biggest aha moment for me.
A lot of people can relate to this. Going from the thing they love to realizing, I'm now a business owner and I need to think differently about that. I'm so glad in your story you said you felt like you were languishing. Maybe you can kind of tell us what is languishing for people who are thinking, okay, what does she mean languishing? And then how do you break out of it?
I see languishing as being a spectrum, right? On one end of the spectrum, we have this thing called flourishing. And then on the other end of the spectrum, where we really feel things are going badly altogether. We just don't feel like getting out of bed. We feel down, anxious all the time. I think languishing, personally, for me, is this phase where we just feel like we're a bit soft. There isn't really something to look forward to. There's something big. You feel this big dissatisfaction that there's something more, this sense of like, yeah, I'm not actually moving forward. I'm not exactly moving backwards either, but I could do better.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can definitely relate to that. And if you're in that space, how did you break yourself out of that kind of being in between and kind of feeling stuck?
I would say the first thing to do is to recognize that you are actually languishing. I think that's a good start. And the second thing is to accept that you are languishing. A lot of people resist accepting that they are languishing. They are like, I don't feel great, but then they go into this like, no, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be grateful. I've got a job, a supportive family. I've got a nice home. I got a great job. I get along really well with my boss. I really shouldn't be feeling this way. There's a lot of resistance towards the state that you're in. What I would say is recognize it, accept it, and then the third thing I would say is just ask yourself, what if you're not languishing? What will you be like when you are not languishing? What would it be like if you are thriving, if you are flourishing? And then visualize yourself in that state. What does it look like to you? What would you see? What would you hear yourself saying to yourself? And what would you be feeling when you are thriving?
It's interesting that you say that, Maggie, because I think you touched on something really important, that acceptance phase of the fact that you are languishing. Because I think in some situations, people don't even think they can flourish, that they can thrive, that there's even a possibility that languishing is the normal state of being.
We've been in that space for so long that the brain is so used to being in that state. And because we don't ask ourselves, what is it like when you're not languishing? What happens when I'm not languishing? What am I like? Would I be thriving? Would I be pursuing my goals? Would I be looking forward to getting out of bed?
Yeah, that's really great. Give yourself the option that you can flourish. And what does that look like? Now, because we have new entrepreneurs who are listening in, Maggie, a lot of the biggest problem among new entrepreneurs is really that confidence as entering into something new. Like you said, you were a person with a passion and now you're a business owner. And that confidence to kind of own that you are now a business owner.
So building confidence is actually a process. It's something that you do and you repeatedly do, like riding a bicycle. It's really not something that you have. It's not a thing that you have. So in order to get confidence, you've got to keep doing the stuff that will give us confidence. So if I were to just summarize all that, I would say one of the things to building confidence is to act. And ACT stands for action changes things.
Action changes things, and that's the way to build confidence. Oh, you're busting so many myths, especially for me. I don't know about the audience that's listening. A lot of times we grow up and people say, just be confident. People say that kind of stuff. Oh, you're not confident, just be it. And how do you just be it? So it's great that you're telling us that it's taking action that builds confidence as a process over time.
The confidence is involved, it's not in now. So I'm just hoping that would be a good way of remembering confidence and building confidence.
Hey, small business family, quick pause here. If you've been listening and thinking, I need help getting clear on my message and how to actually market this amazing thing I've created, I've made something just for you. It's called the Clarity Intensive, and it's 2 focused sessions, one-on-one, where we untangle your ideas, map out your next best move, and build a foundation for real business momentum. If you're done thinking what's the right thing to do and you're ready for a customized strategy that fits you, this is for you. You'll find the link in the show notes, or you can visit the website www.reinventingperspectives.com/shop, and you'll see our Clarity Intensive one-to-one marketing coaching. Let's get back to the show. Now, Maggie, because you coach people who are aiming to be high achievers. As entrepreneurs, we're trying to be high achievers. So this is it's perfect that we're honored to have you here to answer some questions for us. Now, what do you need to do to become a consistently high achieving individual?
Quite a few big words there. One is consistent. The second is high achieving. And the third is do, right? The fourth thing I would say is, what is being high achieving mean to you? That's, I think, the first part I would often ask. High achieving could mean different things to different people. I would call a high achieving individual a person who consistently achieves his or her personal goals. So I'm going to be able to say that the second thing would be, what are your goals? And I really do mean what are your goals and not what are the goals you think other people expect of you. And then the third thing would really be that I think this is something that most people are familiar with. It's like, what are your goals? What's your strategy to achieve the goals? How are you reviewing and measuring your results to ensure that you are progressing towards your goals? So I think these are things that a lot of us are familiar with. I think the biggest question here really is, what is actually stopping people from doing that, from achieving their goals? Because once we know what's stopping people from being a high achieving individual, that's exactly what you need to stop doing. What you need to do consistently to be high achieving is to manage yourself. And when I say manage yourself, I actually mean managing your time, managing your energy, and managing your attention. And this is something that I'm still really working on at this point in time, because what prevents us from achieving our goals consistently is that we don't focus very well. We don't focus on our priorities. We get distracted by stuff around us. And that's what prevents people from getting what they want. Managing yourself consistently is how you get to be a high achieving individual. Yeah.
This is so great, because in what you've said, you've answered all those people who think high achieving is a certain kind of person. And that's not true. And high achieving is, like you said, learning to manage yourself. We always, I don't know if it's media or if it's what, we always think like high achiever is just someone who was just born with certain abilities and that makes them, a high achiever. But from what you say, we know that every entrepreneur listening, you can be a high achiever if you learn how to manage yourself.
Specifically your time, your energy, and your attention.
It leads me to my next question, which is, what is the mindset work that you would say, or you'd suggest your clients or the executives that you coach, that somebody should do on a daily? Because managing yourself, I get it, but I need to get it. I don't know if I probably need to get it some more. Like, what does that look like on a daily for me to be a person who manages themselves well?
I think one of the things to manage ourselves as well is noticing your results and celebrating your successes. is actually tied to confidence and tied to managing your time, your energy, and resources. So I think a lot of times we notice what we don't do well. If today you've decided that you're going to work on 3 things in 3 hours, and if you've done that, notice that you've done that, and then celebrate that you've actually managed your priorities really well that day. Instead of saying, oh, I should have done more in that 3 hours. I should have done it in less than 3 hours. So just notice the results and celebrate it. I think that's one I would say. And I think the second thing would be I'll keep using this word notice. Again, notice what could be improved instead of judging it. Ask yourself the question, what didn't go on so well today? I'm just noticing and reflecting on what didn't go well today and then asking myself, oh, wait, what am I going to learn from it? As opposed to judging yourself and saying, oh, this is so stupid. I should have done better. Why am I repeating this mistake again? I should have done that. So again, notice improvement and not judge. And I think the third thing, notice the story that you're telling yourself. Challenge your beliefs on a day-to-day basis. So, for example, if you start noticing that when people start saying, oh, I can't do this, right? That's a story that we're telling ourselves, right? I can't manage my time properly. The word can't, cannot suggest impossibility. We can't fly with our 2 hands and our legs. That's definitely possible. But there are a lot of other stuff that's not impossible. It's just that maybe we don't know how to or we don't want to. So even simple things like challenging the story that you have in your head does go a long way in building confidence and in managing your time, energy, and attention.
Sounds like it's a lot about taking steps to take control of your life. All those things that you're doing to be accountable to yourself, to build up that confidence by taking action. It's the internal work of kind of taking control of who you are and what you're capable of doing. So, yeah. I hope light bulbs go off the way they're going off for me. So thanks for sharing that, Maggie. Now, one of the biggest things that early entrepreneurs struggle with, again, Maggie, is rejection and failure. If you're coming from corporate or another environment to now running your own business, it's inevitable. Failure is sort of like part of the learning, but it's a hard thing to accept, especially when you're a new and early entrepreneur. Now, how do you coach even executives past failures to kind of get past that?
So one of the things I work with clients around changing the story that they have about failure, say that, hey, there is no failure. It's just feedback. So, if you don't get the results that you want, it's just feedback to tell you that you have to do something differently. The other thing that I would usually work on with my clients, I'm just going to have them connect with the rest of their body. A lot of times we are very connected with our head brain, like our brain, and we rely on that a lot to make decisions, to choose responses, to decide on a strategy. So a lot of times I actually ask clients to connect with the other parts of their body, specifically their heart, their gut, and just use this what we call neural network, to take stock of that particular situation that has not gone well. And then ask a few questions. I will just go for about 3 to 5 questions. What was challenging about that situation? That failure that you described it to be? What do you not want to repeat? What did you learn about yourself in this particular situation? And then we move on to what are the gifts and blessings that this situation offers? When we ask them this question, they'll be like, this is a terrible situation for me. What do you mean by gifts and blessings? There is no gift, there is no blessing here. But if you were to just connect with your heart and your gut, with the rest of your body wisdom, and ask that question a few times, you may have a different message from the body around the gifts and blessings, right? And then I think the final question really is, what are you proud of in this particular situation? A lot of times we focus on the not so good and then forget about the good things. So I'll have clients start taking stock of that situation and process the learning before we then move on to what's next. It's really less to do with doing stuff and more with connecting with you as a whole person. Because once you connect you with the lessons you're learning, what this experience means to you. So doing becomes a natural thing, becomes next.
Oh, this is so great. I love that you said there's nothing like failing. There's only feedback. Because from my experience, I don't know if other people would share or relate with this. Something doesn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. And instead of looking at, oh no, it means my marketing message wasn't right, or it means I was targeting the wrong target market, you take it to be like, oh, I'm a horrible person. Oh, I'm a dull person, and rather than taking it as feedback that your initial thinking just was not right. And so now that you know it's the wrong market, what are you going to do about it?
As opposed to like a black and white situation, you either pass or you fail, right? Yeah.
In line with this, there's a lot of talk about developing grit and a growth mindset, which I recently discovered. I didn't know anything about this, but maybe some people do. How do we build resilience, Maggie? How do we do that?
What is resilience? Emerging from adversity and challenges stronger or even better than before adversity hit you, right? Building resilience is very much like building confidence. It's not something you have, it's something that you do. 3 quick tips to building resilience in good times, not when times are down, when the chips are down. So in good times, one way is to ask yourself better questions. That goes back to avoiding the big why. So a lot of times when things don't go so well, we tend to ask ourselves the big why. Why did this happen to me? Why did I do that? Why did someone do that to me? That's a path-oriented question, and it doesn't really serve any purpose that's going to be useful for you. If you have a positive intention in asking that big why, which is I want to know what are the lessons that I can mine from that incident so I can do better, then I think a better question would really be, what did I learn from this? What is within my control and what isn't? So asking a future-oriented question as opposed to a past-oriented question in good times. Second thing would be, I would say, have small positive goals. So when the chips are down, and you might find that it's difficult to even do simple things like getting lunch or getting groceries or even just getting out of bed. But in good times, if you develop routines, simple routines, setting small goals, this kind of habits and routines actually get you through bad times when bad times happen. Know what you can control and what you cannot. If it's something that I can't control, well, I can't control it. I just have to accept it and stop trying to change things that I can't change. So just 3 simple things that you could do that really small and inconsequential in good times, you do go along with.
The habits, you're building the muscle that you will use when things aren't so good. And you're not too optimistic that things catch you unaware. Sometimes we can be so overly optimistic, which is what makes us become entrepreneurs, but we also have to ground ourselves in what can I control, what can I not control. If I'm going to pitch something, for example, to an investor, I cannot control what the investor decides to do with his or her investment, but I can only control how I present myself. And so any outcome, good or bad, can happen. So it kind of almost prepares you to not be like, oh, my life sucks.
Well, it's got to do with us wanting to control the outcome because we want to get what we want, right? Just being able to recognize that something's just not within our control and the outcome could just be one of them. And we can only control the process of getting to the outcome. That's a big learning for me. I think that's one of the things that I've had to really work on when I started my own coaching practice. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Our last 2 questions. Thank you for allowing us to go over time. What is the number 1 book or resource that you'd recommend to an early entrepreneur?
I would recommend a book called Story Brand by Donna Miller. And a resource that I would recommend is a daily 5 to 7 minute online mentoring by Darren Hardy. So if you were to go to darrenhardy.com and sign up for his Darren Daily email, you get a video every day in your email, just like 5 to 7 minutes, and he will teach you very simple things around success, entrepreneurship, managing yourself. I used him a lot, really benefited a lot from just listening to what he has to offer.
Thank you for that, Maggie. Now, Maggie, where can people find you? Like, where are you most active online, and where can they learn more about what you do?
You can find me on my website, which is www.holdingspace.sg. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Maggie Sim. They could follow me on Instagram if that's a platform that you like. My Instagram handle is holdingspace.sg.
Oh, great. Thank you for sharing that, Maggie. Now, our last question is always, what has faith meant to you on your journey?
That there is a higher being, and that there is something bigger out there that's watching you, and that your life is just unfolding as how it should be.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Maggie. Thank you for your time, and thank you for a wonderful conversation. I feel enlightened from talking to you, and I'm sure the audience listeners will too. So thank you so much for your time, Maggie.
And thank you, Priscilla.
For more information, freebies, and clips from various episodes, please go to our website, www.reinventingperspectives.com. Thank you so much for your time. We absolutely value your time, and even more, we value your feedback. Don't forget to leave us a review. Thank you so much, and see you again next week.